Hey, Oakwood Small Groups. Hey, as you gather together tonight, we're in Acts chapter 15, 36 through 41. And I want us to take time with this story because it's a unique story, and it's very helpful for us, I think, to be able to look at this story together. This is a story of Paul and Barnabas. Now, they become people that we become introduced to, and you've been reading along the way as you get to this point. They've been doing ministry, they've been on missionary journeys, they've gone through hardships together. They've had tough times, they've built friendship, they've done things where they've equipped, taught, prayed, and been persecuted together. But in this portion of Scripture, something happens, and they have a disagreement. And in that disagreement, Paul wants to go on a missionary journey back to some places. Barnabas wants to take John Mark, who is his cousin. Paul doesn't want to take John Mark because he felt like he left them before or wasn't present to what they needed to do, and so he doesn't want to do it. Barnabas, always the encourager, wants to work in his life and work together in this. They decide that they don't want to do it, and it says that there's such a sharp disagreement. Paul went his way and Barnabas went his way. As we look at that and as we think about that, it becomes interesting to look at this story and say, what happens when we disagree? What happens in the life of the church or in our friendships or in our families, but specifically in those faith relationships? When we come to a point of disagreement, and how do we do that? And what happens? Is it over a personal issue? Is it over a faith issue? Is it just something where we've grown to a point, they've grown to a point? Whatever it is, in this story, Barnabas takes John Mark and Paul picks up Silas. It's in this story that we see Paul pick up people like Silas, and we hear more about Luke, and we hear things about Timothy and Titus and other people that began to minister into Paul's life. We don't hear much else about Barnabas. We don't really hear a lot about John Mark outside of the Gospel of Mark, whom he worked with Peter with. But we do find that later in 2 Timothy, at the end of that book, if you'll look for it, that John Mark appears back in Paul's life. And I wonder if that had to do with how Barnabas worked with John Mark. And I wonder if it had to do with, even though they had a disagreement, that disagreement maybe was mended or healed over the years, and or even how they had the disagreement where they separated, that they separated in such a way that ministry was doubled rather than halved. I think it's important, as it seems that life is so hectic and so busy and there's so much. I think it's important that when we come to a point of disagreement, that we treat it carefully. And I think it's important that we're humble, and I think it's important that we're grace-filled, that we're willing and ready to forgive, and we're ready to listen. Doesn't mean that we're going to agree. Doesn't mean that we'll be back together in the way that we were. But it can be something that God uses, and it can be something that God can even make better in a way different than what we even expected. Did that happen in this story? What are your thoughts? What sticks out to you in it? What challenges you in it? Do you see God in it anywhere? And if you do, what might be the application we'd want to apply? Or where might we need to grow in that situation as we're in conflict? Maybe rather than just writing someone off, or as we would say today, ghosting them, or just letting go of it. But how might we treat the relationship, even if we disagree, that still might show God's grace, His kindness, and His love in those situations? Take time tonight to look at that and to discuss it. Have a good evening. Talk to you later.